so that they can capture the whole meeting.
I'm just so excited because once this night is over with, I'm at the end of 5 major financial projects. Because we went out and got a loan, which was almost extremely difficult to get with everybody at home that we were dealing with. Then we had to get a tax anticipation note. Then we had a water sewer truck. Then we had all the online postings and how Trio and the state program didn't work, and then our program didn't work either. We had to get that resolved, and then we had the audit.
We haven't heard of the audit yet.
Actually had the audit in the middle of all that.
Ongoing. Okay, thank you for the coming this evening. This is the regular meeting of the Pittsfield Town Council, Tuesday 18th, 2020, 6:30 p.m. in the Pittsfield Municipal Building. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a brief moment of silence, please. Thank you. Next item is adoption of minutes of the regular council meeting held on August 4th, 2020, and budget workshop held on August 11th, 2020. I look for a motion.
And we adopt minutes of the regular meeting held on August 4th, 2020, and the budget workshop held on August 11th, 2020.
Second.
Thank you. Councilors, did you see any adjustments or changes that needed to be made to either of the minutes for those meetings? Okay, not having any questions or adjustments, all those in favor of adopting the minutes of the last regular meeting held August 4th and the budget workshop held August 11th, 2020, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? And that will carry. Presentations, congratulations, and introductions. Catherine?
So our first presentation is by Town Auditor Bill Hall of R.H.R. Smith & Company on the audit for the period ending 12/31/2019, and Bill is here this evening.
Anybody hear me? Okay. So I'm just going to briefly go over a little bit of the content and also the structure of the audit. If you have any questions at any time, feel free to stop. Page 1, 2, and 3 is where we form our opinion on the audit and the information provided in the audit report. You have an unqualified report. That means you have a clean report. Pages 4 through about 12 and 13 is your MD&A. That is your management discussion analysis. That's where if the town of Pittsfield wanted to put information, and it does come from your manager. She put some information in here. That's the only part of the document that she can do that in. And usually it's just information about maybe budgeting and next fiscal year or any problems that the town might arise in FY19. After that is some statements and schedules. Statement C, which is on page 23, is an important page in this document. It actually tells you what your general fund balance is at the end of FY19. Your general fund balance total is $3.8 million. Most of that at $2.5 million is committed. On page 50, it actually tells you what some of the committed fund balances are. You do have a lot here. Some of them, for example, are the theater capital, airport improvements, police cruiser, fire station exterior, municipal building exterior. So those are the funds that you carry forward from year to year to do projects and improvements or buy equipment and stuff like that. Your unassigned fund balance is at $1.1 million. That is the amount of fund balance that's unrestricted. A lot of towns will use that to balance their budget from year to year. Another purpose for it is cash flow. If you have a good, strong, usually unrestricted fund balance, I mean your cash flow is pretty good enough to do any kind of short-term borrowing during the year. Make sure your bills get paid. 2 pages after that is your revenue expenses for your general fund last year. Statement E on page 25. Your revenues last year in your general fund was $7.6 million. Most of that was taxation at 6.1, and governmental revenues from the state or federal government at just under $1 million. Expenditures last year, 7.7 million. Most of that obviously is your education at 3.2. Your public works had a little over $1 million. County tax is about $500,000. So in FY19, you actually gained in fund balance by $438,000. You went from 3.4 million to 3.8 million. And really what that tells me is you've got a good healthy fund balance, undesignated and for reserves to be able to purchase equipment and stuff like that. So you're very healthy when it comes to your general fund. Next couple pages after that is pages 20, I think it's 27 through 20, 28, 27, 28, 29, and 30 is your proprietary funds. Those are your sewer and your water funds. Those are represented differently than like your general fund because it is considered almost like a for-profit kind of business. That's how it's run. That's how it's operated. A lot of the revenue that's generated is from usage and whatnot from your water and your sewers. You bill monthly, I believe. And you've noticed that on page 27, your fund balances or actually they call them net assets in your proprietary fund for the sewer fund is at 3.4 million. Your water is at almost $1 million. Most of that fund balance is either tied up in your infrastructure or you guys like to restrict a lot of your water and sewer funds. So I think one is called like a standpipe reserve. I believe you have 5 reserves or so total in those 2 funds. So most of the time, whenever you have a net income, it usually gets shifted into the restricted funds. So those funds don't have a lot of unrestricted money. But again, they also don't operate in the cash basis because a lot of your cash is in the general fund. So it's not important for those 2 funds to have a lot of unrestricted fund balance. After that, starts on page 30, goes to about 67, almost 70. Those are your notes to your financial statements. So a lot of times when you're reading these financial statements under like different statements or different schedules, sometimes they'll have terminology or sometimes they'll have like one line for fixed asset, one line for debt. So if you go into the notes to financial statements, you can actually see a breakdown further of what your infrastructures are, or what the costs are, what the depreciations are, what you have for long outstanding debt like bonds, capital leases, and stuff like that. So the notes break down the information a little bit further in case you want to know exactly what some of those numbers represent. After that, you get into your non-major funds. And those are in your back pages starting around 80. Here you have a lot of special revenues, capital projects, and I think you have like 5 permanent funds, which are usually your cemeteries or scholarships and stuff like that. But you do have a lot of special revenues. You have your TIP programs, you have your loan programs and stuff. So you do also have a lot of special revenue funds. For a town this size, you do have a lot of federal money flowing in and out. Every year, sometimes it's iffy whether or not you'll be a single audit or not, meaning, did you spend $750,000 in federal funds? And that would require us to do some additional testing and additional work for the federal government. Unfortunately, they make you pay for it, but we have to do the work. In FY19, I don't believe you were not a single audit. But then, like I said, every year it's touch and go whether here you're not, because you guys do get a lot of state grants, a lot of federal grants. You do a lot of sewer and water projects that a lot of times have to deal with the U.S. Rural Development Fund. So, all in all, town of Pittsfield's healthy. Everything's looking good financially, according to this document.
I just have a question about the federal funds. Sometimes there are federal programs that give state funds that they then distribute to municipalities, like the CARES Act and things like that. So if we're receiving funds through that, is that considered a federal fund or is it considered a state fund?
It is considered a federal fund, yeah. If the origination is in the federal government, that's where it counts.
Okay, and so we have projects coming up with the airport that would also be considered federal funds. Are those going to be overlapping that's going to kick us into that?
Possibly could. Every year, like I said, every year you're very close. So, I mean, a little bit more would probably put you over. So.
I'm just wondering as we think about budgeting if we're going to have to put money in.
Usually a single audit costs additionally about $2,500, I believe, is what the current rate is.
Okay, so it's not too much.
Yeah, it's not a lot of money. It's usually about a day. It's about a day to do everything when it comes to it. And it's mostly just labor intensive. You got to read the grant contracts and understand it. So when you are, testing the outflows and the inflows of money, you gotta know where it's going and whatnot, so.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am?
It's, your tone sounded like that wasn't a good thing, that we get a lot of grants, or is it just that Catherine's really good at finding the money?
She does find a lot of money, and I think it's great for a lot of state grants or federal grants coming in. The only time that I don't like seeing is when people are in charge of it that may not know what they're doing. I don't think we have an issue here usually with that. It's almost always an airport grant, which is usually pretty well maintained here. And then your sewer, it's usually, or it's a sewer loan or a water loan, so. And those ones aren't too bad. It's when you start getting into a lot of police grants, a lot of fire grants and stuff like that. Those become a little bit more challenging depending on if you have the right personnel that's in the spot to be able to handle it, so.
Like the fire department, they write their own grants.
Oh, really?
Yep.
In the town of Pittsfield's name?
They wouldn't be, I don't think they'd write a federal grant. I think they probably do.
They do a lot of local grants, I bet.
Probably local
Yeah.
state grants.
Yeah.
and
And
picnics.
FEMA, they do FEMA grants.
Oh, do they really?
Yes, they do.
Oh, I wonder if it's in the town of Pittsfield's name. That is a town department, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have FEMA monies, but generally it's been smaller amounts
Okay.
because we fortunately haven't had disasters.
FEMA's a tricky one because, you know, a lot of times in FEMA, you may not get approved for the grant, but the expenses already went through.
Mhm.
And that sometimes is a problem. So a lot of times we have to go with a manager that says this could possibly be FEMA funds. And she might have or they might have a quote from the government or something. Say, yeah, we're gonna give you some money. We're not exactly sure what it is yet, and we haven't had signed the documents, but, you know, you may want to be careful if you're close to the single lot threshold. You may want to make sure you take care of that, so. FEMA's a pain sometimes. And MEMA's almost as worse, though. Because their money comes in even later than FEMA.
Yes, we've had those, but they've generally been smaller amounts. When they put the amount up to $750,000, it took us out, so sometimes we have to have the single audit, sometimes we don't. But before that, when the amount was lower, we
Almost every year, yeah, almost every year. Yeah. I don't think you've had one in at least 2 or 3 years now.
Yes,
I
that's
believe.
correct.
This
Yeah,
is
but,
more of an exception than the rule for the town. as far
yes,
as-
we're headed to a big year here. We got several big projects.
And actually, you're probably one of the towns that I do more single audits than even some of the ones down in Southern Maine, like Wells and Kennebunk. I do those, and they don't usually have a lot of single audit stuff. You guys are almost usually closer than they are. So, she does get a lot of federal dollars, and she does a good job managing usually. So,
Yes, she does.
Yes, I always make a copy of everything for you.
oh, she's got triplicate. She's very good about
Well,
that.
when you're
yes.
dealing with, especially the federal government,
Oh.
you need everything in triplicate. They don't want to digitize.
Well, I can tell you a story, but you know, this is on camera, and I don't want them listening. They might take my money or something. So, like I said, everything in this document, you know, telling me that the town of Pittsfield is healthy. It's doing well financially, and that's probably my presentation today. Any other questions?
Could you, is this letter that we received?
Yeah, the management letter.
Yeah, we had the little management letter, because it's kind of comical. It's not, but it is, but it's not. Because when you hear this, you're going to chuckle. So all the documents were put together for the auditor for the book, and then we have all the other copies that got scanned during the period of time. And one of the employees putting the bank reconciliations into the book had additional copies that were in his office that were his copies. So instead of photocopying the ones from the book that were signed off, he photocopied his copies and sent them to the auditor.
Oh, yes, I remember
Who then
that.
saw that we didn't have the initials on it, so we got written up.
Yeah, and we like to make sure that, you know, at any time, because you know, a lot of town offices probably don't have the amount of staff they should have. It's always good to make sure that people are looking over other people's work.
Yeah,
So
we
this,
always-
we just want to make sure that that's happening. As long as it's happening, we're usually pretty good about it.
Yeah, we always have the sign off, and all the books upstairs have that.
And plus, last year with the COVID, when you didn't have a full staff going on, I mean, it was hard on a lot of towns and whatnot. We're finding a lot of problems on the junior ends because, you know, they weren't in school, they weren't in town for like a whole month, so then they're trying to catch up, and then we're finding things might be missing a little bit more because they got misplaced, or, you know, it just, nobody's sure whose desk it was last seen on or whatever, so.
It was a lot more effort to make sure everything was organized, because people were taking copies of items home.
Oh, really?
We don't take the source documents.
Yeah, that could be a problem too, right, yeah.
But we do have, all of the bank reconciliations are always signed off by another person. They were just saving themselves the work and put their copies into the safe, not the signed ones.
Yeah, so, ma'am, to extend on what you're saying is I like to, no matter what, try to make sure I put something in the management letter, at least something that I know you can improve on. And, you know, sometimes when you do have multiple copies of things, that could be a problem because,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes they'll send the wrong one, maybe get updated.
Just
And
like
you
what
get the other one,
happened.
so sometimes, you know, having too much paper isn't the best thing sometimes.
Yeah, that's the only time that has happened, that will never happen again.
But I don't, how many times do you come across a perfect audit?
I usually don't, it doesn't happen very often. Doesn't happen very often.
So,
Well, human beings are fallible and everybody does the best they can, so I think that,
Yeah,
that
no.
was the only issue there, so.
Yeah, and even with the COVID, even with the COVID, town handled it pretty well, even, you know, running on a smaller staff and, you know, and whatnot, so.
Yeah,
You
that-
got through it and you seem to be doing just fine.
Yes, that is hardly anything compared to what can happen.
Oh,
Anyone else have any questions for Bill?
well, I appreciate you letting me come up and speak to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Always good to see you. Have a safe trip. Community and economic development activities.
Yes, for economic development activities, you can unlock it. Yeah, there's a little problem with that door, we've got on the public works list there. So in economic development activities, I wanted to note that we'd like to promote all of the businesses here in town as well as all of our new businesses. And so there's quite a list that we put into the town council materials that are on the website so citizens can look and see all of our many businesses, including all of the new businesses. Second, I wanted to note that hopefully we'll have another project in town shortly, just by things that we're seeing here in town. That could be quite exciting. So third, I'd like to note that the town website has been reviewed by the staff and myself. I talked to Gary Jordan, who set up the town website originally, and he did note that it is hard to find things on the website in the new design. However, we were trying to streamline, which is fine too, because there's too much information on the website. So going through the recommendations that were made by various parties, I've taken all the information and see that we're going to go through the website on each section, starting with economic development. The easiest way to do this, to make sure all the old information is either archived or taken off, and then all the new information is on in a design that will be easy to read, is to print out what we have and mark it up. So that then we then agree on what the changes are. So the staff is working on that now. Economic development is first. Then we'll proceed to the other areas. The new Recreation and Parks Committee would like to update the recreation page, and that's a page that doesn't get updated that much because they use Facebook. Basically, they don't use the website. So they want to make sure the website gets used, and then eventually they might have their own that connects. But right now, we compile the information on the rec site and get some interest going on recreation programs beyond what we have. So we'll start this whole review. We're starting, as I said, with economic development, and then we'll go through the whole entire website. There's an impression that there's not a lot of resources or abilities of the website. The only issue with that website is if we put too much information on, we have to go to the next level. But I don't think we need to do that if we archive some of the older information. And second is the photographs. The photographs just are simply hard to put on. They do not stay always in the location you put them on. But there's a lot to the website that I think it would behoove the staff if we took the little training courses that were available. So we're going to work on that so we can look at the full capabilities of the website. Because going out and getting another website is going to be highly expensive and it's not necessary.
I did have one question on the website while you're looking through it.
Mhm.
The calendar, events calendar, especially if you look it up on the phone, is all the way down at the bottom. And I wondered if that's something we could bring up closer to the top. So that because sometimes if I'm looking for like what's the agenda for the planning board meeting, for example, the calendar is not always the easiest spot to find. Even on the desktop site, it's all the way down in the lower left-hand
Okay.
corner and it's super tiny.
Okay,
So just something that I noticed when I was looking for an agenda the other day, and I was like, I have to remember to mention that.
I know you can click on it right up at top on the left-hand side, it's really high up, but on the phones, no matter what site I go to on my phone, it's hard to maneuver there.
Yeah, the mobile sites
Yeah.
are hard, and if you don't, I don't know what the back end of your site looks like. On the one that I work with, I have the ability to change from desktop to tablet to cell phone. And if that has that, it's a good resource to see how it'll line up when
Okay.
they look at those devices.
Well, look at that, thank you. I haven't seen that, but frankly, there's a lot in there that we don't know. We need to have the staff take the little training course that's available. We just haven't had time to do it, but
Oh, of course.
now that we've sold over 1,000 dump stickers, we probably will have time.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you. And the last item I'm going to mention is the Main Street project. A Zoom meeting will be set up by the Maine Department of Transportation to look at the setup of Main Street. And the staff of DOT had a few questions. And so if it didn't throw the road out of alignment or cause issues, they wondered, does the town want to leave an esplanade and a strip of land between the roadway and the sidewalk? Often these are placed between the road and the sidewalk for safety and also for traffic calming. But they also mean you have to mow them or they're not mowed and look bad. So that was a question that they had. Do you want that left on Main Street? You know, if they can accommodate us, they will. It's not a guarantee if we tell them yes or no, but they wanted to know our opinion. So the pros are that it's supposed to make it safer because the children are further away from the pavement. It's supposed to be traffic calming. I don't see how that really is because our esplanade isn't that far away from the edge of the road.
Exactly.
That's scientific talk. And then the con is that it often looks straggly because it's not mowed in front of some houses. So,
Mhm.
yeah, so those are so think about that.
So
And then-
if it's the town responsibility to mow it, or is it the citizens that have the homes in that section to mow it?
There is no ordinance on the citizens having to mow it, so it would fall back on the town if somebody did mow it, but often in towns they're not mowed.
So if we were to install it, would we be able to install a surface that did not need to be mowed, like a gravel surface?
You can't do
That,
I think they're gonna want, if it's in there, they're gonna want grass.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should get rid of it because it
The
does
same
look
thing.
Can we
terrible.
pave over it?
Yeah, it's gonna be pavement or it's gonna be grass,
It could be
basically.
pavement. I'd go with pavement, just 'cause we don't have time to be mowing more.
It's just one more thing to take care
That little
of.
strip is,
Well, if they remove that, Catherine, does that mean they move the curb closer to the
They
sidewalk,
may.
or they take the sidewalk and move that closer to where the curb
It
already
could be
is?
either. It depends on how the right of way comes out.
Because I'm thinking we could use a little extra room next to the curb that we don't have, especially like when MCI has an event, for example.
Okay. Mhm.
The cars and the church that's next to MCI, those cars are in the road because there's not enough room for them to pull off
Mhm.
because of that.
Mhm.
I just think it's just, I think you should pave it because it's just one more thing to take care of. It's one more complaint item in here.
I
It's
agree.
one more maintenance item in here that they gotta put on the highway department's list because it won't get mowed and people complain. And it's just less maintenance in the long run. That's how I feel.
Me too.
So you're
I
a
agree.
citizen. A citizen has his hand up.
Yes, Mr. Citizen.
Citizen.
I've been through a couple of these, out on Somerset Avenue, and when DOT comes in, they will engineer the width of the sidewalk, and I think you'll be surprised that none of our sidewalks comply with
Mhm.
anything.
Mhm.
Somebody threw some pavement out and called it a sidewalk, so I think you'd be surprised when you see how wide they really will be. And if you look out at my Dunkin' Donut, that's and they will put in the handy,
Mhm.
what do you want to call it, the blind
The
spot.
ADA.
ADA thing, so. But I agree with, you don't need any more maintenance. You don't want to spend the cost for extra pavement.
What if we had an extra wide sidewalk?
Well, what may happen in some
Yeah.
locations is that you have to have a 5-foot sidewalk anyway, and in some places you could have 6, but they'll generally, it'll be engineered for 5 feet, which is going to look, as Michael said, larger than what it is now, because the sidewalk has eroded in or never was 5 feet in the beginning in locations. In one place, going down on what used to be South Main Street, I think it's like 3 feet.
Library Street, you're lucky if it's 2.5.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know Library Street had one.
It'll
Yeah,
be
because
nice.
they're
Only
all the
part of
students
the
walk
way.
to the-
The good news is it'll look really good when they're done.
It'll be really
It'll be
good.
very sharp, people will be very happy with it.
Is this question of esplanade versus sidewalk versus grass gonna be something that the community committee, the project committee comes up with an answer for that?
I think they're just looking for, no,
Okay.
because we'd have to pull them all together to go through the project. They're just trying to do the preliminary design so that they, the state decides which it's going to be, and then we can do our design, and then we start bringing in the committee once, you know, this is sort of, has to be decided in the beginning.
Okay, and do we need to vote on that, or
No.
this discussion's good enough?
No, it's just a
No grass.
discussion item.
So
And
we
I-
don't want any grass.
No grass.
No grass.
Much as I love grass, no
Yeah.
grass.
So the next one is bump outs.
Is what?
The bump
Bump
outs.
outs.
So you
Okay.
have bump outs in your main street. These are where the sidewalk comes out. It's done for traffic calming, for people to be able to stand there to get across the road. Also, it's between parking spaces. It's supposed to be, it's an old fashioned type of traffic calming. So the bump outs are where the, paved like bricks are that the town has. So if it went away, would it be an issue, or if we kept it, is it an issue, or do we really, we'll just go with the best?
Would it give
With
us
what
more
they
parking?
suggest.
I'm not sure we'll get too much more parking, but you might get a space or two.
Anything to get more parking on Main Street.
If we kept the bump out specifically in front of Rennie's, they need to do something to raise that curb, because people park there even though they're not supposed to park there.
Yeah, because
So if it's not going to be designated parking, I mean, I'd go with whatever they suggest is safe for the area.
Right.
And, but if they're going to keep that, we need to make sure the curb is raised enough to distract, stop people from parking on that.
Mhm. Now, if we don't have those, that means that the area in front of Rennie's won't have all the area where they can display their items, or display in front of what used to be the theater. So this is a con too.
So, if there would still be the width of the sidewalk there, so,
Yes.
I mean, it's not really their space anyway,
Correct,
it's the
yeah.
sidewalk,
Mhm.
so.
Well, they
Exactly.
can't even
They may
enter
not.
through
Well,
Rennie's.
Technically, are they supposed to have all that out there to begin with, you know, because there's space, they wouldn't have that display there if the sidewalk was just the width of the sidewalk versus the extra.
No, I
In the Rennie's in Damascata, they don't care how small the sidewalk is,
Yeah.
they still put the stuff out.
Well, they have the back entrance as well to be able to display things underneath the walkway there, but, yeah, I think, you know, if we can get more parking on Main Street, that would be better. At the same time, we do wanna have enough space that people are gonna be able to walk through there. And
Safely.
aren't those, isn't that section, like where it bumps out there, isn't that relatively new?
No, we redid one.
Okay.
It was there before, but all crumbled and people were
So it was
putting high
redone.
heels
Right.
and stuff in it. So we completely redid it, so it looked bigger, but it was the same exact size.
Okay. And it might be helpful because we have an intersection coming in there with people turning and coming in to have the road a little bit wider
Mm-hmm.
versus, are we gonna get,
Well, there are two lanes there. There is a turning lane,
yeah.
but
They're kind of
sometimes the
slim.
the straight
Yeah.
going forward.
It's tough to squeeze through there if there's a
Yeah.
person there.
Especially if you have a trailer on you.
Mhm.
You can't just scoot by somebody turning.
No grass.
All right, so that is good information. All right, very good. So I will relay that information to MDOT, and of course, they're gonna pick up a design for the road which works best for all people. So this is our input, at the stage, which is preliminary. All right, very good. And then the last item I was gonna mention, and I mentioned it prior to the meeting, after, we had some near accidents at the corner of Somerset and Main Street, after the phone calls that I made, I did file the official complaint form on the MDRT site, which I always feel bad about doing. However, the secretaries always say to do it, but when you do it, you get excited phone calls. So the very next morning after the Tuesday meeting, there was a very excited phone call. And so everybody was very happy to say that if they could, they would paint that immediately if it was not part of the contracts that they had. No paving had started in terms of any of the striping or paving or anything had started in our region according to them, especially striping. And so if they could take care of that themselves, they were going to do it. So by the, that was Wednesday morning, so by the end of the week, they did it. So we were the first place that they striped for the curbs. So that was helpful. All right, we've got Holly here, we'll let her in. All right, so that's all I have under economic development. Thank you.
President, did you want to do upcoming events?
One quick item on the Egg Festival window contest. This has been out on Facebook. It has been on the website and starting to get picked up by media. The traditional Egg Festival window contest will be held in downtown Pittsfield. It will be this Friday, August 21st, from 8 a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. It will be judging from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Rain date will be the following Friday, which is August 28th, at the same time. Age groups are 5 to 9, 10 to 14, 15 to 18. The theme will be Earth's Natural Wonders. Sounds like a good day for weather-wise. We have Faith Humphrey, who is organizing this. She's all excited. She's got permission from all of the different companies and businesses on Main Street to have paintings done, and people are calling her like crazy, so because there's no events you can go to. And if a family takes over a window, that's a great event, and just each window has a group that is a unit, and they can do some nice painting and have some fun. So that event is on. Thank
So are
you.
we supposed to contact them in advance?
No, just show up.
Okay.
Just show up.
So first come, first served.
Yeah, we're
Pretty much.
keeping it as informal as possible. Yeah.
Thank you. Public hearings and old business, there is none. Reports, council committees, finance committee report.
We have not met. We're meeting next week.
And ordinance has a meeting coming up on some point.
25th.
Is it 25th?
We changed it to September.
Oh, we did?
We did. So it is on, and it got changed, I believe, last week. It's
Oh.
on September
8?
8th. Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay.
Finance was us.
Yeah. And recycling committee?
Recycling committee, the next scheduled meeting is in the third, I believe it's the third Wednesday in September. I don't have it, my calendar in front of me, 16th, I'm sorry, it was 18th.
16th?
Yeah, September 16th.
Dina wanted to have me tell you that she really wants to leave her house and go to the reuse building.
Board and committee updates by town councilors and manager. Unless anybody else has something, I think it's just,
So Recreation and Parks Committee met Friday night, highly dedicated here, at 5 o'clock p.m. They talked about fall sports. And as you know, the schools are pretty much up in the air about sports due to the different requirements that are coming out. And so they're going to have another meeting at the end of August, and then at this point make a presentation to you, unless something changes, of the different sports that can take place in the town from a category in which we do everything the same way we always did it, to where we do things with some precautions and differences, and to where we don't have any sports activities. And then there's discussion by the committee that if the high school classes do not have sports activities, the town may become involved in that. So this is just a preliminary discussion. So before anything was decided or acted upon, it will be presented to the town council.
so we'll be reviewing any plans.
Oh, you'll be reviewing it all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have they received the new outline for the PE courses? I'm sure that will,
I think that they
it was
have,
just released.
I think that they have seen the new, the coaches came
14 feet
in.
apart outside.
Yeah, yes, the coaches came in and updated them.
Exactly.
Yes, oh, yeah, it was exciting.
Sorry.
What are you gonna be doing catapults? or
I
what?
read through that and I was like, I do not understand.
Yeah, it's hard to think there would be any
Pole
sports.
vaulting.
They get to make the rules, you know? Okay, Catherine, did you have anything else other than Parks and Rec?
No, that would be the only committee that's been meeting, besides all the intergovernmental groups have, but here in town, that would be the only small committee that we have that's been meeting regularly.
Okay. And we are going to deal with, I think that's later on. Yes, okay, that's later on. Town manager's report.
Right, very good town manager's report. I will skim through these items. One, just to thank everybody for their continued compliance with all the requirements due to the civil emergency and the pandemic. People have been really good. Number two is the November 2020 election and the site. Due to the COVID-19 requirements, our building set up, as we indicated, worked really well for a small election. In fact, the changes we made, we're going to actually keep after this because the flow was excellent and it took care of all the congestion that we had before by having people go in one way. We heard from Wausau Middle School, in which the school will not be available because they have to utilize their facilities to spread the children out to meet the requirements, which is understandable. We heard from MCI late this afternoon that we would be unable to use any of their locations. And that again is understandable because we would be bringing over 2,000 people onto their campus where they have students that are residential and you know, definitely a lot of concerns with that. Plus, there's not a lot of parking there. So we're down now to the Elks Lodge, which we are looking at. We have to do a layout of the building, go in and inspect it, look at the handicap accessibility items and such. But the flow in the building would be good. You would have good flow if you had a line outside, which is expected, because you can line them up on the sidewalk down Middle Street. And so that will be looked at. Other than that, we just have the fire station left. And so that has its pros and cons, but that may be what we need to do to get more room and more voting booths. It would be colder. There's pros and cons, but that might be a solution. So we're down to the Elks Lodge and the fire station as alternatives. However, we learned today, and I didn't agree with this, but the town clerk was a little, couldn't believe it, but it is a requirement of the state of Maine, if we move the polling location from the council chambers to the fire station, that we submit a plan and go through a full review.
Even though it's the same
It's
building?
in the same building, yeah. So we're gonna investigate that a little bit, but that may be difficult, and so we may be in this location with no choices other than that.
You said it worked okay and there was good flow.
It works good for a small group, steady flow, but line-wise, once you start lining the people up, the flow is gonna have issues with the other business going on unless we shut down the town services upstairs, which may be an alternative.
Well, that's probably.
Shut it down.
I would
Shut
think
down the
that
town
we
services and be open on Wednesday instead, Catherine, if you needed
Exactly.
to.
We may have to do that. So all the staffing and how we provide the services and other services that day, all depends on the location.
And I think the council is in agreement that you should close on Tuesday and be open on Wednesday that particular week.
Yep, so if we do that, we'll have exhausted staff members coming in to work on Wednesday, which normally they would have taken the Wednesday off. So there's pros and cons to each one, but ultimately the
Maybe do a
staffing.
late start Wednesday.
Yeah, the staffing and how we do this all depends on the location.
Yeah.
So once we have the location, then we'll do the staffing plan. But it may come to the point where it's so difficult to get election workers and enough of them that we simply have to close down and send staff members to go work. And so that was what we would, that if we had to do it, we would do that.
I think for peace of mind and knowing that it's settled and to be able to make plans instead of having everything up in the air. Plan on having it here, if the flow worked well, close the upstairs on Tuesday and Wednesday, because
Yeah.
chances are they're going to be up late,
Oh,
working
yeah,
all day and
yeah.
up late, trying to
Exactly.
get everything processed after the fact. And
There's
then to
plenty of
expect
time
them
to
to come in on
advertise.
Wednesday
It's-
is a lot, I
As,
think.
as long as you let people know ahead of time that,
Yeah.
look,
Exactly.
we have this election going here, this is an important election, it's because of the COVID-19, we have to have the space, so we're gonna be closed Wednesday because our election workers are gonna be working down here, they're gonna be up half the
Well,
night.
we're normally closed on Wednesday.
Yeah, 90%
So
of the
we're just
people.
additionally
yeah.
closing
But even
Tuesday.
Tuesday,
Correct.
90% of the people are gonna understand that, as long as you let them know ahead of time, let them know three weeks or so ahead of time, it'll be
And we're
fine.
not the only town going through this.
Oh, no,
Before
we're
you
not.
mentioned the fire station, I had talked to some people who were, their towns are having the same issues. And
Look at other
they're
towns.
looking
Look
at fire
Vermont.
stations because their town halls are
Tiny.
So,
ridiculously small.
as a suggestion, we might wanna consider having the fire station available in case it's raining, because we don't have room for a lot of people to be standing in the building. And was it 2 years ago? It was pouring all day election day, and we might wanna have that open in order for people to kind of queue in there and then just have to wait in the rain for a little bit. I mean, everything that I have heard
That's
is
an
said that
idea.
there's going to be huge turnout,
Mhm.
expect long lines, expect to have a wait time,
Do
and
we
I
have
think that we
tents?
should anticipate that.
I like that
Do we have,
idea of
like,
queuing
easy
them through the
up
fire
tents?
department,
For the fire department
come in
or
that
anything?
first door
Yeah,
and come out.
and then come right into the.
So we'll keep working on this, if we
And
could
then
put
go
it in a
back
fire
up.
station,
Exactly.
we thought that that might give us more room for more booths and everything. I will say frankly, this is the type of turnout that took place in the 70s, in which we would stand, we had people standing out, 50 or 60 people in lines in towns back
Mhm.
then, when they had the clear, in early 80s, when they had the clear cutting referendums and everything. I mean, there were hundreds of people in line, and but over the years, the lines have gotten shorter and shorter, so now we're sort of going back to the way it used to be.
Mhm.
Well,
there's
this
also-
is a special year too.
Yeah. There's also, I have concerns about having people wait in line because we have to space out so much.
I know.
Where that line's gonna be located in the parking lot.
Mhm.
We're kind of hemmed in with a street on both sides and traffic going through the middle, so
Mhm.
where can we safely have people waiting in line as well,
Yeah.
would be a concern that I have.
So
Like a
once-
rope thing like Walmart did,
But you wanna keep people 6 feet apart, so, they have one long line in front of their building, and our building is not that long.
Well, they actually went down and around, they had carts that separated the 6 feet in between the line looping.
And that would have to go out into the parking lot, and you would lose that first row of parking at least, if not
Right.
the travel lane after that as well.
Yep.
And that may have to happen. So once we settle on the location and we're going down to look at the Elks Lodge write-off, and that will probably make the decision there. That will probably determine where we're headed after that. And then I think we'll probably end up in the fire station, is what we're thinking informally. So, but we will work through the exercise. And then we'll know for backup locations in the future too, as to, what the pros and cons are.
And there was a time limit on when the decision
Yes.
needed to be made too?
Yep, by the end, beginning of September.
Okay, so we're coming up against that in a
Yep.
couple weeks.
Yes. So, one of my questions is that if we leave this site, and let's say we have another site, do we have to file a plan to get back here?
I would guess so.
Because that would be one of the deciding points too, because who wants to do that again?
Mhm.
Yeah, we don't have the answer to that one yet.
And would they approve it if you wanted to come back to a smaller
Correct.
space,
Mhm.
and you might be stuck elsewhere?
I
Exactly.
can't believe you have to do a site thing for the
I know, I
city
thought if we were in the
That's
same building.
ridiculous.
All ballots have always stated municipal building, so I
Yeah.
think it would be safe, if we moved around in the municipal building.
Well, like Heather said, you need to find out if we do change,
Yeah.
are we gonna be able to come back?
Yeah, well, that's my main concern, is that at that point, we're
Yeah,
going to
because this
stop.
is a special year, not every year is gonna be like this year.
Let's hope not.
I was gonna say, I agree.
Do you
I
have
know.
anything else there on your report?
No, I'm gonna continue on. Okay, I'll zip through the others. I thought this one would be exciting, so I put it at the beginning. All right, so we do have the nomination papers, which are available for one District 2 council member for a 3-year term, one at-large council member for a 3-year term, 3 SAD 53 board members for 3-year terms. Nomination papers must be returned by 5:00 p.m. on September 21. Number 4, town office reopening. Just to remind everybody, we are open at the town offices Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 8 a.m. to 5:00 p.m. Closed on Wednesdays. Number 5, online services for town business. We have the handouts on this, and we have made a page on the town website on the left-hand side. When you click online services, that will take you to all of the online services that we have. And we also now have online services to request your absentee ballot. That site opened up yesterday at the state. New registration list is also available, and been a lot of compliments on that. Number 7, transfer station new fee system. I'd like to say that as of today, we have sold 1,013 transfer stations. Who would have ever thought? Nobody had any idea, including transfer station staff, that we had that many people using the facility. So I did want to remind everybody, in order to obtain a residence transfer station sticker, one obviously has to be a resident of the town of Pittsfield. Whether you're here for, a month or you're here all year, you would actually live in a structure. We've been utilizing registration forms to show one lives in Pittsfield, a license to show one lives in Pittsfield, and if people don't have either of those, a bill or mail addressed to the individual at that address. And so what we have found is that we have had people over the years who own property here but do not have a residence or have a structure on their property. They've been coming in and getting a dump sticker and then bringing their trash from Vernon, from Palmyra, or from whatever town they're in.
Detroit.
Yeah, because they feel that they paid their taxes. So it's supposed to be residents, so that's what it's going to be. And so we've explained to people that if they want to cut the brush on their property, they can use the pass system that we have. We use passes for people to clean up their house. They get a one-time pass. It's a piece of paper which we copy for everybody. They can go use the landfill on that day with that vehicle and take care of whatever they have to do. Or they can bring their brush or whatever they have to do, but they don't get a transfer station sticker for all year. So that has weeded out a few people from other towns that live in other towns bringing in trash. So it'll be interesting to see what our trash counts are after a while of this. But if you think about this, all around you have to pay to have your trash removed or pay to go to the places, and you don't pay to go to our place unless you're a contractor on certain specific items. We have weeded out a few categories there. Number 8, code enforcement violations. We did receive a letter from the attorney for the property owner on Somerset Avenue. His attorney indicates that the property is being worked on. The property owner has hired a contractor to finish the work to be completed within the next 2 months. I have not seen the contractor there yet. However, things have been going on at the property. So the property owner does have an attorney, and he has indicated also that if we do file proceedings, he'll be filing for his client also. So we'll proceed forward and hope that the property gets all updated as it should. Currently, there are no 80K violations going through the court system. Everything is backed up. They're starting, I think, with certain cases. Number 9, Pittsfield Summer Recreation Program. Swimming lessons are officially completed at the Paul E. Bertrand Community Swimming Pool for the 2 sessions. The last day for open swim is Friday, August 28th. A little bit later this year, but we started a little bit later, so that fit in. Number 10, Katie Cobb Textile Recycling. The bins were dropped off last week. They are labeled for the textiles with, they say clothing and shoes. However, people may recycle and reuse a whole variety of other items. The items will be picked up by employees of Apparel Impact bi-weekly and either recycled or donated, depending on the condition of the materials, but it will be removed from the waste stream. After pickup, the materials are sorted and items are donated, just like the recycling committee does now with one of their members driving textile items up the bank or to the shelters. They will be given out as bedding to animal shelters and recycled in different ways. Items to be reused or recycled will be clothing, bedding, towels, bags, purses, shoes, and hats. And so that will be advertised, as well as our exciting news that the recycling trailer will arrive back to the municipal parking lot on Monday, August 24th at 8 a.m. We'll probably have a line, so Donnie has promised it will arrive at that time. So we'll have many happy citizens who can go straight to the recycling trailer to recycle. I suspect they'll be quite filled up. Number 12, the fire station and municipal building projects were signed off on by the Public Works foreman. All specs were met and payment is on the warrant this evening. Those prices were so much better than all the other times we put it out to bid, and the work was good quality. Number 13, municipal building and fire station roof project. C.O. Beck has done a great job on the fire station roof. They went off to work on some emergency projects for other people, and we'll be back to work on the town office area, which will be good because over the town offices are all the heavy pieces of the roof, all sitting in a pile there, and we like to just get it spread out. Number 14, sewer system work. Oliver Associates has officially started as the operator for the Pittsfield Sewer Treatment Facility. All the DEP forms were filed, all the reports were filed from July of 2020. We're working on a potential water rate increase and getting all the paperwork together so Annalise can do that as part of the overall water sewer arrangement with no additional cost. The highway, water, sewer, transfer station, recycling department projects. I put them all together because they all work together on projects, so I'm going to put this all together from now on. Paving and preliminary work. The orders for the culverts and the materials were placed with the intent of Public Works replacing the necessary cross culverts on Higgins Road, along with any emergency or culverts, driveway culverts that really have to be done. To save time, they'll go back later on and pick up any that would be good to do but are not essential at this point. They'll do all necessary ditching first too. I issued the letter of work, notice of award, contract to Pike Industries this week. They have advised this morning they are getting their bond and insurance certificate, and the discussion between the town and Pike is that they will show up to pave likely the second week in September, which Public Works should be completed their work by then with the entire month of August. So hydrant replacement. The hydrant on North Main Street will be replaced in September. There's 4 directions of traffic coming in everywhere there, so that could be a difficult project unless we get a detour. So we're going to work on getting a detour to cut off all the additional staffing that's needed and what could be a confusing traffic flow trying to get through the area when we're working. So a detour would likely work out much better. So we'll apply to the state for a detour. All of our associates is going to have a staff member available to assist with this project. The Main Street hydrants need to be completed ahead of the Main Street project. They can either be completed this year or next year. All of our associates indicated that if we're going to complete them with a contractor, we're going to need some time, and we should do it next year because we need an RFP and everything. And the staff is looking at whether they can hold another hydrant installation day, which did work out really well, but the hydrants were not all on one busy main road. So they got to debate that and figure out how that will work. There are less hydrants than what we did before, which we started extremely early, had everything prepped, and just started moving down the road as fast as we could go, because you're turning on people's water, so you want to get everything prepped and do it as best as you can. Main Street also has problematic valves, so there's a couple of areas where we probably have to install new valves, so this may be a more complicated project than simply 5 hydrants, which now will become 4 hydrants by the way they put them back in, with a couple of new valves. The flushing of the hydrants will take place this fall, having been missed earlier this year due to COVID-19. And we had employees, based upon how people thought things were going to happen, employees were dispersed to their homes, with half staffs and everything in case people got sick and we needed to bring people in. So that was done everywhere, evidently in the water sewer, because that was what was recommended, because there's so few people in that area with expertise. Flushing will be done in the same systematic way that we did it last year. There will be 2 flushings from now on each year, which should clean out this manganese issue that is in certain parts of the town. I hadn't heard about it for months and was excited, and then heard from a resident yesterday. So it evidently is there. It's a common mineral, which is, according to Annalise from Oliver Associates, is not dangerous. However, it does discolor things. So we do have manganese in parts of the town, and Oliver Associates is watching that. They did some changes, and they do think that if we flush twice, that will help. And in fact, doing it in a systematic manner that we're doing it now, instead of flushing here or there. It sounds like we did for a couple of years there. Bid specs that Public Works will be working on includes airport crack sealing. And we have to do that because we're going to be, the amount of crack sealing we're going to do is going to be a lot, because we'll use the CARES Act money that's coming in and just fix everything that we can fix. Manhole covers and replacement of the actual units if necessary for Detroit Avenue. If we think that if this is done by a contractor, that the road can be overlaid this year. If we leave it for Public Works to do, they just have too much to do. The Pinto trailer is supposed to have bid specs made up, so we can close that out. And I'm going to work on the engineering for the cost estimates for road projects to assist Public Works, so we can move that forward and get some costs for our capital infrastructure. I can certainly put some costs in for the CIP, but when we get ready to do this, we want some good costs so we know what to bid out. Number 17 is electricity contracts. We signed up for 23 electricity accounts. We will have an 11.2% reduction in cost for the year for supply. So this is very good. This is one of the best reductions that we've had over the years. So this is really good. And I signed up for the 3-year option so we could get as much as possible and have that work out. 18 airport grants. We have noticed now that we have $453,000 coming into the town for funding for the airport. So if the sidewalk project did go forward next year with all of this, we would have that single audit requirement under the federal government. But it might come in just a few dollars under, you never know. Yeah, so that's for the CARES Act monies that we're getting. That is for the monies that are owed to the town for reimbursement for the last airport project, which is a little bit over $44,000. Everything got held up from last year and this year, just due to everything with the federal state government, but also COVID-19, because everything just sat in the federal offices. And we have $372,100 coming in for the stormwater work to be done at the airport, and that may be delayed until spring of next year, just due to the low bidder scheduling and how many projects they have backed up due to COVID-19. But they would honor the same bid. And the last item, 19, all financial projects. So I'm happy to report that everything that we were working on with the request for proposals when the shutdown with the pandemic happened, and all the financial documents for the capital improvement loan, the water sewer truck, the tax anticipation note, the 2019 audit, several grant closeout, And the reconciliation for the online services can be boxed up, and I'll have room in my office. Thank you.
Okay, we're on to, new business. New business. Resolution 20-101.
Resolution 20-101, resolved that the town council waive the bid policy, chapter 2, administrative code, section 106, regulation of bids and contracts, to authorize the town manager and librarian to execute all paperwork and agreements for the 12 months of annual membership for Minerva Software and operational support for Minerva Library Management System at a cost of $4,000.
Move we adopt resolution 20-101.
Second.
Thank you.
So we have Holly on Zoom this evening.
Hi, Holly.
Holly, did you want to say anything about this item?
It's, if anyone here uses the library, I know Heather and Amanda, you do, you know the system, that's how people order items online, it's our circulation system, our cataloging system, it is everything pretty much. So it's needed, and actually we have people from out of town who buy library cards just because of this system. So.
And this is a single vendor system. It's not like we have another statewide library system, so there's no need to have the bid policy in effect for this. So we can waive the bid on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of a housekeeping item because you've been participating in this for at least 14 years. So, and there's no rate change from last year.
So that was a
the
good
budget.
thing. Yeah.
Any other questions for Holly, Counselor?
No, we definitely need to keep it. I don't know what I would do without it.
Is there a way for us to make it easier? That Holly could spend up to X amount without it having to come to the council?
Well, I think we talked about making this so that if it didn't go over a certain percentage, that we would just automatically renew this.
Right.
And have the bid policy waived.
Can we do that? And if we can, how do we do it?
You could add on language. And for subsequent years, if the increase is not more than blank percentage, such purchase is approved, you can add on that language.
Tonight?
You could, yeah, it's an amendment.
Well, it looks like it hasn't gone over $4,200.
Mhm.
So what if we said if it does not exceed $4,500?
You could
Or
do
even
that.
Or 5,000.
10% increase each year.
Yeah.
Or 5% even would be 200, but that would be. The cost has actually gone down in
Yeah.
2018 and then it stayed the same.
There are more libraries using it, that's why the cost has gone down.
Nice. Okay. So councilors, does anyone want to make an amendment to this motion?
I move we amend resolution 20-101 to include that this can be approved every year by the librarian and the town manager as long as the cost does not increase more than 10% of the current rate.
Second.
Okay, councilors, we have an amended motion on the floor. All those in favor of the amended motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll discuss the amended motion. Is there any discussion regarding the amended motion to allow this to be an annual expense approval based on the librarian and the town manager's recommendation without having to come back to the council, as long as it's less than 10%?
Good idea.
I think it's a good idea.
I think it's good to streamline it and allow Holly just to go ahead and,
Not
you
be
know,
held up by
not
Do what she needs to
meetings.
do.
yeah, let her run the library.
That's
How about
right.
that?
So, Yeah.
Any other comments or questions for Holly or Catherine?
You're doing a great job, Holly.
Thank you. I love what I do.
We can tell.
Thank you. It's a great community, so y'all help.
All right, counselors, let's vote on this amended motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any, that will pass.
All right, very good, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
You're
Holly. Thanks
welcome.
for hanging out and being patient with us.
Oh, no problem. May I leave now?
You may.
All right, resolution 20-102.
Resolution 20-102, resolved that the town council accept the bid of blank in the amount not to exceed blank per yard or cubic yard for winter sand.
Move we adopt resolution 20-102 to accept the bid of Snowman's Construction of St. Albans, not to exceed the amount of $14 per cubic yard.
Second.
Did we get any kind of report from the highway department on how much sand they used last year versus 2018 season?
We have not.
Because I noticed there's quite a pile left over. I don't know if we're gonna purchase, I think it was like 2,500 or 3,000 yards we did last year.
The budget has 3,500 yards in it. However, we have some already, so that would generally be up to the public works foreman.
I think that's something that Matt has asked about before,
I
to get
know.
a report from him. Can we
Yeah.
put another request in to get, just
We
have him
can.
tally up what he thinks is left there and what he thinks he used, so we can make some adjustments as far as budgeting upcoming, I think.
Yeah,
I-
yeah.
I just
Good
wanted
idea.
to-
Can
Good
I,
idea to know.
if I could interject one thing, yes, it's a good idea, we should know how much we're doing, but it's also nice to have some left over
Oh,
at the
yeah.
beginning of the season, because sometimes it snows before Halloween,
Oh, yeah.
and.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you wanna make sure you have something if you get an early storm before the pile
Right.
brought in. And this included trucking, correct?
Yep.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah, that's
delivered,
why it's so
thank
high.
God.
Delivered, yeah.
Well, and given his new information about the other company, the low bidder not meeting the specs, and
Correct.
that we would end up buying more, it makes sense to spend a little extra more to buy less.
So this is the sand we bought last year as well, and he was really happy with it, and we received many, many fewer complaints.
Yeah.
There were no rocks and boulders brought in. So I call that a win, we have a good pile, we might not need to purchase as much as we had budgeted for based on, what we have still, we have some in the larder, so let's see what we're gonna need for the winter.
Until the last couple of years, we always had some out there. But there were a couple of very lean years when they were digging down into the actual gravel that was there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would say, Steve will use his discretion on this, but if we don't need the full 3,500, cubic yards, we don't need to get it.
Right.
Right, I was just wondering, we
Yeah.
kinda talked about we
We
might
did.
use less or whatever, so I was just curious, kinda.
Oh, no, that's a good point, yep, definitely.
So could
I'll-
that be for the next meeting?
I
So we
will-
can dispense with this
Yes.
item?
Yep. Well, we will.
Move them
We'll
along?
move this along tonight,
We're gonna do
but
it
Yeah.
tonight.
we need that information for
Correct.
budgeting, we're not
Correct.
sure what we're
Yeah,
gonna.
that's
No, I
for the
was
budget.
talking about the report and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll ask for it. We had a staff meeting last Friday and went over all the projects, so that the other department heads could, help Steve with some of the projects and so,
Yeah, we know they're busy up there, so.
yeah.
Any other questions or comments about the sand issue, counselors? Okay, let's vote on resolution 20-102, buying sand from Snowman's Construction, the amount of $14 per cubic yard, not to exceed, of course, they're happy for him to charge it less. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any, that will pass.
That's the
And then-
fastest sand conversation we've ever had.
Oh, that was a nice one compared to last year.
Yeah, let's not talk about last year, please.
That's-
I just don't want Carol Biggie coming in with any more rocks.
All right, resolution 20-103, councilors.
Resolution 20-103, resolved that the town council accept the proposal of blank in response to the request for proposals for commercial realtor proposal dated July 22nd, 2020, as recommended by the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation, PEAC.
Okay. Look for motion, councilors. Just to open discussion, I think.
Yeah, we need discussion.
I move we adopt resolution 20-103.
Second?
Thank you. And I'd like to invite Mr. Gray from the PEAC committee to give us an update on their discussions, please.
So, I think all of you have copies of the 3 proposals that we received. Pete formed a committee at your request to interview all of the 3 realtors involved. Consisted of Gary Jordan, myself, Bob Stackhouse, and Heather. And after lengthy discussions with all of these, and frankly, we had kind of thought we'd made up our minds until today. And we interviewed the last realtor team, if you will.
Which we don't have that info, correct?
You don't have, if you have your proposals
Yeah,
out.
they're all of the proposals are in your package, but you can
Oh,
announce.
I thought there was an additional one,
No.
sorry.
No,
Sorry.
it's
There were only 3 realtors involved, Allied Realty in Skowhegan, Whittemore's in Skowhegan, and then the team of Mike and Emma Cole from Realty of Maine,
Yeah.
out of Bangor. After we interviewed Mike and Emma Cole, we pretty much changed our minds based on how they proposed to market the theater, some of the questions that they asked about the theater, the valuation of the theater, how they would conduct their marketing campaign, if you will. And frankly, Gary was really impressed with them, and as was I involved. So our recommendation would be to accept the proposal of Realty of Maine, Mike and Emma Cole as a team from Bangor. And I guess maybe the best way to help here is fire away with questions if you have any. One of the recommendations that came out today was that we have somebody get down in the basement because the realtors that went in there noticed something. Mike Cole is pretty susceptible to mold, so he didn't think it was mold, but there's something on the floor, whether it's some effervescence that's come up from water or something. But somebody ought to get in there and take a look at it, and if it can be shoveled up and hauled off, that's probably the thing to do.
So I did speak with the administrative assistant who did take the realtors through the building and asked him about that. And he said he didn't think it was anything, which is why he didn't mention it. So he was asked to have Public Works go look at this and determine what it is.
Mike Cole said when he walked on it, it was kind of spongy, so I don't know. I have no
We'll check
idea,
it
I
out.
haven't been down there since I was a kid and I'm going down in the basement, so.
So I see in their bid that they are going to list it at $290,000. Do they feel that that's going to be the case, or?
No, from a marketing standpoint, they probably, and they use a system to market, which will go out, you know, you can say the world, but, you know, the reality of it is you're gonna be in the New England area, in New York, Connecticut. The marketing strategy will be to set the price a little higher, but in their write-up, get rid of that for a second, in their write-up, they're going to eventually get to the point where if somebody comes in interested in the property and comes with a proposal for its use to the town, then we consider a reduced offering. I don't think anybody in their right mind thinks we're gonna get $290,000.
Well, yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I asked
I
that.
don't think so.
I mean, I've got some figures in my mind and it's nowhere near. No.
Right.
But the way they're gonna market this thing, and it boils down to a strategy. We'll hit it real quick, and then if nothing happens by winter, then you kind of pull it off. And then when you bring it back in the spring, it looks like a completely new offering. And they're pretty good at doing that. They have a system where they can go in and take a video so that you'll see every square inch of the theater. So somebody could really get a good idea of what it is. And realistically, I think the target is going to be somebody from probably out of state with some real disposable income who, for lack of something better, thinks it would be cool to own a theater.
A retirement project.
Something like that. You know, people say it would be cool to own a restaurant. Well, yeah, maybe they ought to have their head examined. But,
So, my next question would be if they're planning on doing that, and I know that's common with realtors, to take it off the market for a little while and then put it back on. Does the 1-year contract include the time listed or the time from the first date we list it to the end?
No,
Or
you
they're
just-
going to pause the
Yeah, you
time?
sign a 1-year contract because just because they pause the advertising doesn't mean that they're not gonna be looking for
Okay.
other clients. Michael Cole is pretty well connected with angel investors, if you will. So, you know, there could be some money somewhere out there. If somebody came into town and really looked at not necessarily the theater, but the adjacent properties, and if you visioned out a gallery offering, punch a hole through the wall, a cafe environment, and you know, let your imagination run wild. And frankly, there's that kind of money out there. I mean, you can get a commercial loan these days for hundreds of thousands of dollars for 3%, 3.2%. So it's cheap money, and you know, we want to take advantage of it. Now, the con with all of this, there isn't a theater open right now that I'm aware of. So, you know, what's the market for that? But there have been theaters in Old Town recently sold in Skowhegan. And, you know, we've got a price in the back of our minds that probably somebody might offer for us. If somebody with the right proposal came in, you know, I wouldn't hesitate to stand up in front of you and fight for that price. You know, really, you know, make it attractive for somebody to take it over.
One of the questions that one of the realtors asked us though too was, what's the priority of the council? Is the priority to dispose of the building as quickly as possible, or is the priority to try and find the ideal person to purchase the property? And I think that's something that we need to think about when we might be facing having a lower bid come in or something like that, in order to kind of like think about in our minds now what exactly we want to see that property turn into or return to. And one of the other things that was a concern was having somebody purchase the property and then have it just sit. You know, and if somebody's just going to purchase it and have it sit there just to kind of park their money there for whatever reason and not actually develop it, it's not ideal to have it just sitting there and not have it be actively used in some way. You know, it's not advantageous for us to keep the building and have it sit there and not be used, and it's not advantageous just to sell it to someone else and have it just sit there. So either way, I think when we do agree to sell it, we need to make sure that we're selling it to someone that has the ability and the wherewithal to go ahead and hit the ground running and have a development of that kind.
Yeah, I think that
You'd want to qualify.
You know, cover
Correct.
in it.
they have to come with a plan.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, we're not gonna nitpick
No,
somebody who
but I
really
mean-
comes forth with a whole bunch of money.
But I agree with Heather, there's gotta be a way.
If you qualify them to the point, and
Yeah.
frankly, a lot of times people will come with great ideas
Mm-hmm.
and deep pocketbooks, and they get into a project and say, what the heck was I thinking of? And that's, I mean, you run that risk, you know, it's always out there, but.
The good news is you got some flexibility on the money end of it. If somebody, you know, if somebody's, chances are if they're gonna buy it, they're gonna be excited, they're gonna wanna do X. And if they wanna do X, and, you know, they say, well, geez, you know, I can only give you 200,000, that's, you know, hey, you know, if they got a detailed, if they're gonna present a plan to, you know, they're gonna come up, they're gonna say, this is what I wanna use it for, or 185 grand or whatever, hey. But I don't believe that, I know what you're saying, and I agree with you that you don't want a building sitting there like the old pharmacy down there. But I don't think anybody that buys a building of that sort is gonna wanna use that for a tax shelter. I think it's
You
gonna
know,
be something
there
else.
isn't any tax shelter
Right.
there, if you will.
And plus, we've done, you know, we've never done this, but on the other hand, we never had interest rates as cheap to get the money either.
Yeah, and frankly, you know, all of these realtors around here, none of them have really sold theaters, if you will. It's kind of like selling a church. Realistically.
Yeah.
You know, things happen, so I think all we can do is take the recommendation, engage the realtor, they will come back with, you know, a whole plan of how they're gonna market it, their signs. You know, we're thinking that that marquee could be lit at night, you know, keep a light on because frankly, it's still an operating theater right now. All you gotta do is open the door and show a movie. So you can market in a number of ways.
Yeah, there is a lighting issue there in which we had to string up lights because the cost to fix the whole lighting system that blew out was extensive, but certainly lettering can be put there, you know, that talks about,
For daytime.
you know, that it's available, you know, prime location, you know, for sale, contact apps.
Yeah, they're gonna come up with a marketing scheme, it's not just gonna say for sale.
Right.
Good.
Because
Well, these
that,
people know what they're doing.
you know, that gives somebody the idea when they ride by, it's vacant, it's for sale. You know, you wanna sink the hook and reel them in, so.
Are we looking at selling this with all of the equipment inside?
That's
If the
something
right-
we need to discuss.
Yeah, well, we've discussed it. If the right people come along and want to operate as a theater, absolutely. Why not? What are you gonna do with a digital projector? I don't know. So,
Could
So we
save the
have
digital
we have been
projector.
told that the old film setup is worth money. So that's the antique that's down by the stage.
yeah.
But the other equipment, obviously if somebody wanted to run a theater, we would say, here's all the items. The only item that you probably would want to discuss is what's considered to be the antique projector.
Yeah, you could get,
And if
somebody
they
from
don't want it, you
Julia's
can
or-
say, fine, we'll take that stuff out.
Yeah, you know, personally, if it were me, I wouldn't get that deep into it. I mean, that projector, I don't know, if somebody says it's worth $100,000, yeah, I'd move it, but if somebody says a couple thousand.
Go stick it in the historical society building.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you can get it out the door.
That's why we
Yeah,
would
you
have
got it.
interviews with commercial realtors, because we don't know what we're doing, and they do.
Yes, they do, they get a
So-
reputation for it.
I agree with Mike, this company, after rereading it,
And frankly, Allied Realty is, don't get me wrong, they are all well-qualified realtors. You know, it depends on your reach, what
It's
kind
the
of
reach.
client base you can touch. The owner of Allied Realty is going to be the president of the Realtors Association of the State of Maine. So he's got reach. But, you know, when we interviewed Realty of Maine, just a little bit better idea of marketing, that sort of thing, so.
Mike, is Pete's recommendation to act on this tonight and sign a contract as soon as possible, or are we gonna wait a week or so?
I
Until
would
the
think you could
situations in the
authorize,
basement are squared away and it's ready to go?
yeah, I would think you could authorize the town manager to do that tonight, but realistically, it's gonna
It'll
take
be
a
a few
week.
days.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna take a while for them to, well, it took a while just to get them here, because these
Everybody's
realtors
busy.
are busy, one arm paper. So.
Yeah.
So I think probably, by your next meeting, you're gonna be into this thing. Catherine will have signed the contract. They probably will have some marketing information sent back to us,
Yeah,
or
and
to
we'll-
you.
I don't see why
and we'll
we
get
can't
the
approve it.
language for the.
But why can't we approve it tonight?
You can approve it
No
tonight.
reason not
Yeah.
to. So, we have a motion on the floor to open discussion, so we need probably to amend that motion with,
Realty of
the,
Maine.
recommended realtor
I'll,
inserted there.
I'll amend that motion to read, resolve the town council accept the proposal of Realty of Maine, of Bangor, Maine,
I'd add Mike and Emma Cole.
Mike and Emma Cole, of Bangor, Maine, in response to requests for proposals. And, I won't read the whole thing, but you get the general drift.
Okay.
Yes,
You filled in the blanks, it's
You
good.
fill in the blanks.
yeah.
Do we need a second?
Second.
Okay, councilors, all those in favor of accepting the amended version of resolution 20-103 with Realty of Maine of Bangor, agents Mike and Emma Cole, and, in the blank, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that will pass.
Thank you for coming in,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Thank you, Mike.
I've been putting a deck on, so I'm a little purple now.
Thank you. We definitely need a company with good reach.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
this will be good.
Well, good reach and a good marketing plan.
Definitely.
I like
It
that.
has to get out of the state of Maine.
Yeah, after
Oh,
talking to
you
Gary,
absolutely need to use the state of Maine.
after talking to Gary today, it was really the marketing, ideas that they had and what the research they were gonna do that was really the item that kind of pushed them ahead of the others.
I'm gonna go find out the car keys.
Everybody knows he's coming back.
Discussion items.
Yes, for discussion items, you have in your package the department reports for July 31st, 2020, so I won't read through those, they're all very clear. And the financials, which are for the same period of July 31st, 2020. And I'll just note very briefly that on the financials, we are through 58.3% of the period, which is 7 months. For the municipal expenses, we have spent 46.1% of the budget, and for municipal water and sewer, 41.3%. For the revenue collections, again, for 58.3% of the period, we have collected 44.7% of municipal and 43% of municipal water and sewer. Excise tax, we've had a major comeback here. We were very, very low, but in our exciting months of July, which seemed like 3 months here, 4 months for the number of customers, people flocked in, just every day, lines and lines. And so we are now $23,680 ahead in excise tax collections over this time last year. And remember, we were behind by every penny of the whole year. up till last month when we started gaining, and this month we've gained quite well. So this is very good news. And then the state revenue sharing for this period, we are now $79,759 ahead of 2019 collections. Now, with that said, I mean, this is spectacular. However, we did not budget the amount that the state indicated we were going to receive, which was very fortunate because of what happened with COVID-19 and everything. So the statistics that we received from the state were a lot higher than what we budgeted for. I did up it, so I was concerned. And so far, this has started coming back, but the tourism season has been less. So we should finish okay, but we do have to be very conservative. We've got back to where we should be now, after, worries and everything. But tax collections will be later this year because the assessors are behind in every town across the state, just like everything else. And so our tax commitment will be later. They're trying to get some dates together and try to do this in August because we've always done it in July or August, not September. So we've said we have to do this in August and get the bills out. We have a tax anticipation note that would have to be paid back at the end of October, and we're already into that. We just started using it, so we started a month and a half later than what we could have done based upon the projections that we put together during the pandemic. So when we were out, or some of us were working, others were out. So this has come off, better than it could be, and so we do need to be conservative though. We do have additional expenses for COVID-19 throughout the budget based upon the department as to the extent because all items before June 8th are not covered. We will stock up as best as we can with our grant so that when it ends on October 31st, a few days before the election, we will have enough supplies to get through the election as best as we can to stay within the qualifications. It is a federal COVID-19 grant and extremely specific, so nothing can be changed on it. Everything has to go following the lines and every document has to be correct. So we'll get that all done, but we do have additional expenses throughout the budget due to COVID-19, and we are getting caught up on projects. All departments, outside departments got together. We met with Public Works and went over a lot of the projects on how we could team up on projects, and we're going to do that into the future indefinitely. I think that will work out good, like we used to last year and previous years. During COVID-19, we sort of got separated, but we're back all working to swap people between the different departments to get the work done. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor reports. Oh, we don't have any audience members here or virtually, so we'll go right to counselors. Pete, do you want to start it tonight?
I don't have anything to say.
Deborah?
Just some thank yous. Thank you to Holly. I like reading her reports. They're always so positive, and I think she's doing a great job. I'd like to say thank you to Don Shoup for all of his due diligence and excellent job with all of his added duties as the health and safety officer. And I'd also like to thank the recreation department. Things are going really well there, and I think they made all the right choices. And that's all I have.
Okay. Amanda?
I also have some thank yous. I'd like to thank our auditor for coming and giving us the quick overview of the town audit. Thank you to Holly for being available for any questions we may have had about Minerva. I'd also like to thank Mike for attending and giving Pete's recommendation for the theater's realtor. And I have a quick question. So I was thinking about the paving and how much we're going through right now with trying to figure out the traffic flow when it comes to the election. How will the paving project out back here, Catherine, affect people coming in and out of the town office where you have to have an in and an out? I just happened to think of that.
Yeah, we have thought of that. for a brief period of time, we may be able to run people through the building a different way. I mean, we're talking about, they'll be walking on gravel, when they put the pavement down, it'll just be a short period of time.
Okay.
And usually they can start either earlier or later, generally earlier. If they did it on a Wednesday, then that would take care of the issues.
Absolutely.
Sometimes they pave on Saturday.
Okay.
Oftentimes, Pike paves on Saturday.
And it's possible to schedule them for a Wednesday or Saturday. I think that would obviously be best, but I was just curious. I don't know how much time, I know it's a small project and they're a company that can work really quickly.
Yes. they can
But I
work
didn't
out.
know how much time that would affect traffic flow if they have to do it during business hours.
Yep, it would.
All right, and that's all I have. Tim?
Again, I don't have a lot to report on. I want to thank Mike for coming in and giving us an update on that, and I think that was a smart move. I think we will get the most use out of that building down the road. I think, you know, you got people out of state that have retired from different agencies, whatever, and they're looking to do some kind of a project because they're really retired. You know, you read about that sort of thing every day. And I've got no doubt in my mind that that building will be put to good use. And we'll get a reasonable price out of it. We may not get the top dollar, but I don't think we'll get bottom dollar either. I think it'll be fine. I like the idea of using the fire station. I think that you're gonna wind up, I mean, we've had huge elections. I know this is a huge election. We've had huge elections in the past. I know that COVID-19 throws a monkey wrench in it. But I've got complete faith in the girls upstairs that they'll do a good job, that they'll keep the flow going. If it's raining or even, God forbid, snowing, which I don't think it'll be that early, but the fire station's a good place for people to get out of there and be able to distance enough so that they can wait in line to get somebody that, you know, maybe has a cane or whatever. I think it'll go smooth. I think that, I honestly, but I mean, I understand checking into, you know, splodge and all
Well, we
that.
need to look at
But
the
yeah,
application.
do all your due diligence, but I think in the end, that's probably what will happen. I think it'll work out fine. It'll be busy, but it'll be fine. And I think most people will be very understanding of the fact that the office would have to be closed Tuesday and Wednesday. I think they see the long lines. That wouldn't be an issue.
So we will be promoting the absentee balloting. Of course, we have the additional item of what's going on with the post office, so I suspect that will get worked out pretty quickly here. But we still are going to promote absentee balloting. It's just going to be so much easier for people, and we have so many elderly and disabled in town that
Oh, absolutely.
it just would be so much
Dean and I
easier.
used it. It's great.
Catherine, with the absentee ballot promotion, will you also promote that they don't have to mail it in?
They
Because-
can-
We're going to do, we'll do the whole write-up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because they can, if people are concerned,
Mhm.
and that's why they don't wanna do absentee ballot, they can actually hand deliver.
Oh, certainly, and a lot of people do, but a lot of people just, once they get it, they want to send that in because they think that it has to be sent in even though we tell them it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's going to be their preference, but yes, I will say, over the years, you know, we have seen ballots come in after the polls have closed, and it's always a sad thing. You feel badly, but it does happen. Sometimes they show up a week later.
Congratulations on the audit. I mean, the town's in good financial
Oh,
shape,
thank you.
considering, you know, a lot of towns are really struggling, and we're not. And that's-
We're very, very fortunate. He mentioned the unappropriated surplus. We were able to add to that and still do all the programs last year and carry forward the different reserves that we needed to. And we have all the special revenue accounts. So last year was a very good year for the town. It was a very hard year, but it was a very good year financially.
Yeah, we're in good financial shape, and I want to thank you and your staff, all the town employees for that. They all contribute. I'm glad we got the textile blocks up at the transfer station. That is going to make a major dent, I believe.
Yes.
And if it's done correctly, that will make a major dent in recycling, along with the transfer stations, because they have not having people from out of town coming in and running their own little side business to try to subjugate this guy to my right here. I'm glad that they're moving somewhat on that house on Somerset Avenue. I had an idea pop in the back of my head. I'm just hoping that the contractor's not 97 years old, but you know, hopefully it moves because anything's an improvement from what it has been. And a lot of activity around town, a lot of new people in town. And I am very confident that once we get through this election cycle, we get into next year, that there will be a vaccine of sorts, and that some of this, I mean, we won't completely get rid of it, but some of it, and it will change, but some of it will go away. And I think we'll get back to more semblance of what I got faith, and I really strongly believe that. So, anyway, thanks for all the hard work, folks, and the town is in good shape.
Thank you, I'll let people know.
Deputy Mayor Bolster.
I have nothing further to add from what everybody said here, so.
You concur?
Yeah, ditto. Thank you.
I'm gonna also say ditto versus all the thanks that have been mentioned. I'm just checking them off my list here as we go. Regarding the theater though, I think that I'm very optimistic that we're kind of pushing that along in the right direction, and that the firm that was selected is going to do a really good job marketing that, and I hope to see some movement on that this fall. Everyone I've talked to, real estate is moving left and right. There's people just flooding out of the metropolitan areas and coming into rural areas. Gary had mentioned that he gets calls from people like, what do you have in Maine? And he's like, well, what are you looking for? You know, are you looking for waterfront? Are you looking for country properties? And people say, it doesn't matter.
I know.
They
Just find me a
to-
place.
They just want to get out
I want to
of
get
the
away from
cities.
COVID-19.
You know, a lot of people are now able and used to working from home. So a lot of people are looking for homes that have a little more space, to have a home office and have that flexibility. And I think a lot of companies are going to be finding out that they don't need these big office buildings because so many employees are going to elect to stay at home. I know my son is in that is in that category. But he's like, I'm not going to the office unless I absolutely have to. And then they better have a good reason to have that meeting when we can do it on Zoom, you know.
Yeah. Learn how to use them.
So I think that's kind of the wave of the future, is that we're going to see a lot more people moving in to our area, which brings me to community planning. I mean, we talked a lot about it at our workshop meeting last week, literally last week.
Yeah.
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 It's been a long week. And I think we really need to do some serious community planning and maybe think about having, does the university have a civic or community planning department or something like that we could get somebody to come in and do a presentation or help us with some of these projects planning wise?
They used to do that through the public administration program. There's a planning discipline, but the program that the University of Maine, the whole University of Maine system was disbanded.
Okay.
So Southern Maine, so the Muskie School has a policy program, not planning.
Okay.
But
There's
we can reach out to them.
Margaret Chase Smith Policy Center at Orono too that may have something that does that.
I know, I thought of them too. That has changed a lot.
Yeah, the new director, I know the new director, he's made a lot of changes, but I think they've been pretty positive changes, so they may have something. You know, worst case scenario, he says no.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, I had a conversation about a USDA community planning grant, and I talked to the Washington DC office, because it wasn't run out of the state office, it was the national office. And the woman that I was talking to said that when she was, I kind of talked a little bit about our town and stuff, and she said that when she was in graduate school, one of their projects was to go out to municipalities and work with municipalities and help them kind of like navigate through that community planning and forward thinking, and what does our community look like in 10 years, and what services are we going to look like, what housing needs are we going to have. I mean, we have Puritans here, they're employing a couple hundred people now, they're going to be expanding and acquiring more property and then employing even more people to expand. And as a community, we should be embracing that and trying to figure out how can we house people to live, work, and play in Pittsfield.
Which
and
is
how
what
can
our
we
mission is.
how can we keep that money that's coming into this town staying in the town and staying with our small businesses so that they can stay here for all the services that they need and they can live here in affordable housing. And that's something that we've talked about time and time again, is that we don't have the housing stock for that. So I'm hoping that the planning board is going to start dealing with that, but I would really like for us to have some conversations about that. You know, what are we going to be doing to plan for the future? Tim?
The thing with that is you're going to get some ideas that we never even thought of. I mean, that's the whole thing. Different set of eyeballs, different set of priorities, you tell them what the needs are, but at the same time, I am sure that if we could make that happen, you're gonna come up with some ideas that you're gonna go like, wow, why didn't we think of that? So
So I will
that's
look-
what the advantage is of
I'll
that.
look around at the different colleges on the different types of programs they have. I had to chuckle. That's what the University of Maine Public Administration program did. I came to Pittsfield, Maine and did a project here. I went to Herman, Maine and did a project. You know, the
Yeah,
students
we-
were sent all around the state and we did projects just exactly. We did one exactly like that.
Catherine, it's also possible, the MBA program at UMaine, because
what
they
that's what I'm
actually
thinking of.
support people going into
Business.
town places. I know somebody who was taking that program, the MBA program, so that she could become like a town manager, for example. So,
Yes, because there are no town manager programs anymore. So
Right.
that's exactly where they're going. And so I was gonna check with, criminal justice, the, master's program for business, and then there's a couple of programs down at Colby that might be of assistance. So they won't be the traditional, type, but that doesn't mean we won't get some ideas.
Wow.
That
And
would
when
be-
we do that planning, we talking about where we want to be in, say, 10 years. It has to mesh with the budget, what we do.
Well, that's what it is, you know, you
Exactly.
have to be doing
But
this
we-
planning with your budget in mind, and if you can look down the road and say, okay, we're anticipating this many homes are needed, how many of those homes are gonna have children in them, and how does that affect our school system? You know, and I'm sure that they've done some planning on that, and then you throw COVID into all of this, and how many children are actually using the school system right now? You know, we might find that, you know, we need to downsize our school buildings because there aren't as many children utilizing
Exactly.
them. There's more people using homeschooling or online, electing
Schools
to do
doing
online,
online.
and how long is that gonna last? So there's a lot of things that are up in the air, but I think that we need to start thinking about them.
Four
I'll check with-
universities, the one closest to us,
Yeah, I'll check
University of
with
North
the-
Carolina at Chapel Hill, was just shut down. They
Just opened
just
and
shut
then
it
just shut
down
down.
because they had 4 clusters
Yep.
of students who had been in contact with COVID-19.
Well-
And they had to quarantine them. It was a mess,
Well, in
so,
Millinocket, there was a family wedding, and 19 people got infected, and then, or are positive, and then a few more people that came in contact with them are also positive, so it doesn't take much to have, and something I saw said they only have 25 beds in their small hospital.
right.
So if all those people get sick enough to require hospitalization, that hospital is just full overnight. So there's all those implications.
Absolutely.
And that has to go into the planning part as well.
Yes.
You know, we've talked about our emergency services and our ambulance service. Is that up to snuff and capable of handling if we have an influx of residents into town? But I just think we need to do some planning and be thinking about those things.
So
Could
the
be
one
another
thing-
workshop.
Yeah, the one thing I think that we'll have to keep in mind, when I contact the universities, I think they're gonna say that the students can't go out to the communities. So we would actually, I'll check with, a planning agency in the area and see what they recommend too.
Okay.
Yeah,
That'd be
that
great.
may be the wrinkle,
What
because
about-
the
We
students,
can always take them on
Does
Zoom
MMA, would MMA have any information?
not on this, no.
Well, I
Is there-
think, you know, like a master's student would be great for analyzing data. You know, they don't have to come here on site, we can send the data to them. They
Right.
can analyze it and then kind of give us some planning
We
options.
have to figure out how to get that
Or
data.
extrapolate the data type stuff. You
Yeah.
know, they might be collecting the data. I don't know.
Right.
I just wanted to bring it up. I don't want to have a huge discussion tonight, but I think we do need to start having some discussions about community planning and where it's gonna go from here. And the reason why that came about is because, I was looking at a grant that is around like rural placemaking and, community building and that type of thing. It involves the arts and historical buildings and all those sorts of things that make a community a community. And the timeline was too tight to do anything, this year for it. But it's like a pilot program that the Senate had some money to spend, or it was gonna be lost by the USDA. So they put together this pilot program, and when I talked to the woman that's in charge of it, she said, we're gonna collect as much data as we can, write a great report, and give it back to the committee, hoping that they will fund it next year as well with a lot more funding than, it was $1 million, but it's countrywide, so it's not a lot. But so I think that knowing that programs like that are coming down the pipe, and that the Senate and the federal government is becoming more aware of the needs of rural and small towns, but if we can do some advanced work and have projects in mind that could be ready for grants like that. It had a very small, I think it was a 15% match, which was only about $35,000, which isn't a whole lot when you're talking about a $250,000 project. So, but yeah, so I think that there's people in the community that want to help with that work. So I think that we should kind of have that on our radar, you know. The recycling bin coming back to the town office parking lot here. We had talked before about having the capability to have glass recycling in that and have an extra compartment in there.
We did set up several extra setups, which were stolen and other things happened to them. So we have to have the compartments as we have them now, because this whole thing happened with taking the glass out so that the cardboard and the newspaper could be separated.
Because of the bulk of it.
Because it was so full, and it will be so full constantly, you can't even get through a day. And so I expect that with all the savings that people have, because they didn't want to go to the transfer station, which is fine, that, you know, they'll be pretty hectic here. So they have set up another unit. One of them was stolen, one got run over, one got vandalized. It needs to be pretty heavy, which then means you have to be able to hook it onto the back of the trailer or something, which they did try. So they'll keep working on it, but right now anything you put out there with glass is something, unfortunately, inviting the one person out of 100 that wants to vandalize things.
Huh. Who
So
would
it's
have
gotta
thought
be
glass jars were
secured.
so interesting? Okay.
They still recycle glass, it just looks unsightly.
Yeah.
And we go out, clean it up, put it in boxes and leave it there,
Yeah.
and nothing happens to it.
Huh.
But if you get a big container, things happen to it.
Okay. All right. Well.
They'll keep working on it.
The marquee on the theater, is there a way, I know we've talked about, having it just say for sale or available or something like that, but can we use it while we still have it for more of a community-minded thing, like saying, I don't know, thank you to our small businesses or support our small businesses? We can thank Puritan for coming to town, give them a big welcome or something like that. Is it too time consuming to have a staff person change the sign and take down the movie times?
Well, I think that what we can do is we're gonna have a realtor almost, you know, right away. So there's no reason why in a couple of days they can't tell us what the wording should be, and we'll just put it up. But on the side, we can put, you know, well, you know, thank you small businesses, or welcome Puritan, or whatever you want on the side.
Change it once a
And
week.
leave the front side for
Leave the
for
front side for the
sale.
advertising part.
I think that's a good idea.
You could change that siding once a week, that signage once a week, and put up a different thing each week, or however you wanna do it.
Well,
I think it's a good idea.
Depending on how long it takes, we only have just so many employees.
Yeah.
Correct.
And
That's
they
part of
are
this. I have
up to
somebody.
their eyeballs.
Right, I will have somebody who will do this for us, but we're not gonna keep running out and changing everything.
Right.
You know,
I'd love to see welcome Puritan put up
Yeah,
there.
we would probably put that on the
Yeah.
side, maybe if we could put on one part, thank you, businesses, welcome Puritan. We want to, the one item that always comes up, you know, and I know it's wonderful to have Puritan, this is absolutely sensational, but you will have businesses say, why didn't they welcome this one, why didn't they welcome me, you know?
Exactly.
Well, 'cause the theater
I
is
say just
operating
welcome new business,
I know.
new
So you
businesses.
sort of gotta put welcome, thank you businesses, welcome Puritan, something that balances out, which we'll work on. Yeah, I have somebody that will do that.
Okay.
Oh, good.
That'd be great, because I think we should keep it part of the community, and having that would show the person buying it that it is a fixture and part of the
yes,
community,
yes.
even though it's being
We just
sold.
want to do it all at once,
Mhm.
because we can't keep going up and moving things around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, no, that'd be great.
Yeah, this is, let me assure you, this is very low on the public works list, so I have to get started.
Yes, I'm sure it is. We put money into the budget for, engineering for sewer, water, road issues. We had talked about maybe using some of it to engineer the Library Street project to find out what's going on under there.
Yeah, I reported on that under the town manager's report. Public Works is not gonna get to that, he has a lot of projects, so I'm gonna do that,
Okay,
yeah, and put the RFP out.
okay.
Okay.
Cause when I talked to, in my course of phone calls this week, I also talked to Darren Dyer, I think maybe his last name was,
Yeah,
of the
it's Mr.
USA
Dyer.
Community
Yeah.
Rural Development Community Planning Office, and he said their community planning type things for like sewer water loans and stuff are super low interest right now. I don't know if there's sewer water stuff going on.
The town usually doesn't qualify for those unless it's a large match, because we, and I know Darren, we have to get the special type from the state, which is through the state revolving loan fund and the drinking water, clean water ones, so that we get the low interest rate and the write-off. Under the ones that he's talking about, when you do all of the math, we'll be a too high receiving town because our income level is too high. So we might get 15%, we have to pay 85%. We went through all those and ended up with the USDA, when we got the $1.9 million and the $1.3 million loan and grant. And then since then, because you can only get one of those, every decade or so, we probably can go back again, but who wants a, $1 million grant? We don't want that. So, we would have to go to the clean water and the, drinking water programs for the low interest to get the write-off and everything.
Okay.
So we tried that several times and it doesn't work. We don't have a higher.
We don't qualify.
So the
We don't
lower the
qualify.
income, the less of a match you need, is that the problem?
Yeah, the lower the income, the better, you have your lower match. And so
Okay.
we are, at least as of the last census and all of the data that's been taken in since then, we are a high receiving town, we're high.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
that's why we don't get the community development block grants, like Dover Foxcroft got monies and hardly had to put anything up, and they were able to fix their theater, but we're not eligible for that. Which is a good thing on one side, because you have a more affluent town, but on the other side, you're not qualified for some of the grants that have been helpful.
Right, we kind of fall
Yeah.
through the cracks on
Yeah.
something. Okay. And the last thing I have is just on behalf of the Maine Chiefs Guild, I want to say thank you to the town council and to Catherine for writing a letter of support for our Maine Office of Tourism Enterprise grant, and we submitted that grant today, and we should know in a couple weeks whether we received that grant, and that was for it was for a significant advertising campaign to advertise for the Chiefs Festival, which will be held next September. Good luck.
So I hope I didn't get too carried away. It got onto 2 pages and I had to squeeze it into one.
No, Steve read that letter, he's like, wow, this is great. So Holly Zader wrote a lovely note from the church, from the UU Meeting House. And we also got letters from the Maine organic milk producers, because a lot of cheesemakers buy organic milk for that. We got support from the Kennebec Valley Office of Tourism. Who else? There was like 6. You only needed 3, but I threw in everybody that wanted to send us a letter. I threw them in there. So I'm hoping that goes through and that we can have a really great festival in 2021 in September.
So did that grant did it have to fit into one of those 6 areas? So it was the Kennebec Valley Tourism that you were in the area of?
Well, there was some debate on that.
Okay.
I called the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce, and they just totally disowned us and said, you're not part of our area. Call Sebasticook, which I had already talked to them, but it was Monday, they're closed on Mondays, and they're only open on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, or whatever. So they weren't open. And they said, get a letter from the town of Pittsfield. I'm like, well, we did that already. And I contacted them. I was like, you were my next call. But the Kennebec Valley Office of Tourism is the region that we're in.
Yes.
And they had to write a letter of acknowledgement, knowing that we were going to submit the grant. So I caught Tanya, in the middle of organizing a golf course, fundraiser yesterday. So she was running around taking pictures on a golf course and then sending documents in between. So
Okay.
she was really great to work with and got that, done for us. We were on a super tight timeline. It was about a week turnaround to write the grant and get all the information, so.
Yeah, thank you, I
My
read
family's
that
touching
and
me
thought,
every
it
day,
was
so
a-
I'm
it was
in
a
the
good
office.
work.
So, but anyway, so it's done and we're hopeful that that's gonna happen. So to end on a good note. Does anybody have anything else? Okay, look for a motion.
We adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Well, I'll get that information for you, it's just easy.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine, no big deal.
I know how you can.
Just curious, yeah.